The councils called humanity young. They said humans were rash, noisy, and impatient. They said humans did not understand the weight of ages. They used soft words, smiling words, but they still put the Terran delegation at the end of the row, far from the central dais, far from the light. Captain Elias Ward stood there and listened. He kept his hands at his sides and his voice calm. He watched the way the elder species looked away when he spoke, as if he was a polite interruption. The great chamber glowed with a pale gold shimmer from the ceiling crystals. Ships drifted outside the window, slow as thought. On the table, a translation orb whispered in 50 languages. None of that made the sting any less. A new signal had appeared near the galactic core. It was old, the Concord scholar said, older than every empire in the room. The signal pulsed in simple tones like a heartbeat. It used no language they knew. It sang a number set that did not match the deep archives. The council had debated for 3 days. Most wanted to watch from a safe distance. Most wanted to wait. But waiting had a cost. The signal was growing stronger, then weaker like a tide. If it faded, they might lose it forever. At last, the council turned to the human table. A senior archivist with folded blue skin said, "Humans are inventive. Humans are brave. Humans will go." The words were a ribbon tied neatly and placed in Elias's hands. He understood what they meant. If the mission failed, the young would be the ones to fall. If it worked, the elders would call it a group success. Elias did not argue. He only inclined his head and said, "We will go." The human ship Odyssey left within the day. It was small by Concord standards and strong by human ones. Its hull had a faint gray sheen. Its engines ran hot but true. The crew was a mix of explorers and scientists, each one chosen for calm minds, steady hands, and the shared stubbornness people called the human way. Dr. Mara Iqbal, lead linguist, had quiet eyes and restless fingers. She loved patterns the way a child loves stories. Lieutenant Jonah Reyes, pilot, wore a lucky coin in his pocket, a round piece of metal from the old Earth oceans. He tapped it when he was nervous. Chief Engineer Kumiabe could listen to a reactor and tell its mood. She talked to machines like tired friends and they obeyed her. And Elias, the captain, kept all their lines straight, even when the map went strange. The signal came from a region where stars were thick and old. The Odyssey slid through crowded dark. Gravity tugged in many directions. Light bent. Dust drifted like fine fog. The ship hummed a constant song, engine power, life. On the bridge, dim blue lights lit careful faces.
Picking up the pulse, Mara said,
"It's very simple, but it is not random. Range?" Elias asked. 2 days if we cut close to the red dwarf field, Jonah said, eyes on the vector arcs. Cut close, Elias said. We did not come to watch it fade. They moved through star weather. They skimmed a solar wind that hissed against the hull like sand. They crossed a thin ring of ice and rock and listened to tiny impacts, soft as rain. The signal grew clearer. It stepped through prime numbers, then a repeating cadence of 12, then a long pause as if waiting for a reply that never came. Mara stared at the waveforms for hours. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady and slow. "Captain, the cadence after the primes. It matches a track on the Voyager Golden Record." Elias turned. "From the 20th century?" "Yes," Mara said. She brought up an old file. A gentle string sound filled the room for a moment, warm and human, then faded. It is not exact, it's like an echo through stone, but it is there. "Maybe the signal heard it from our space and bounced it back," Jonah said. Mara shook her head. "The delay is too long. The source is older than that record. Much older." "Older than the record, but carrying its shape," Elias said. His chest felt tight. He thought of the coin in Jonah's pocket. He thought of small artifacts that travel far and outlast makers. "We keep going." They found the source at the edge of a faint, thin nebula shaped like a hand held up to the light. In the palm of that hand lay a structure not built by chance. It was a ring, but not smooth, more like a crown of stone and metal, full of angles that made the eyes ache. It was the size of a small moon. Patterns shimmered along the inner surface, rising and falling in slow tides. "Scan," Elias said, though the crew was already scanning. "Composition is mixed," Kumi said. "Some alloys we know, some we don't. There is a field inside the ring. Low energy, stable. The pulsing signal comes from the inner rim. It's broadcasting and listening at the same time." "Any life?" Elias asked. "No life signs," Mara said softly. "But there is data. A lot of data. The Odyssey drifted closer. Safety protocols from the Concord said to maintain a 1,000-kilometer distance and send drones. The ship released 3 small probes that darted forward, bright eyes on thin bodies. They entered the ring's interior and vanished into shadows where the star glow could not reach. The data began to flow at once. Mara watched. She frowned. She leaned forward. Then she stood up very slowly. "Kumi, can you isolate the carrier tones?" she asked. "I can." "Jonah, hold us steady." "Steady." "Captain," Mara said, and her voice changed. It gained a quiet, grounded weight. "The primary control interface is human." The word hung in the air. Jonah stopped tapping his coin. Kumi's hands froze over her console. Elias did not speak. He let her finish the sentence fully. "Not just human-like," she said. "Not a coincidence. It uses our math conventions. It uses the same modular patterns as early Terran deep space relays. It uses our baseline frequencies for comfort ranges. If I handed this to an engineer from 2 centuries ago, they could guess their way around it." "How?" Jonah asked. "This thing is older than everything," Kumi exhaled. "Unless it is not. Unless the older than everything part is the part we are wrong about." Elias looked at the ring. It looked back with no eyes. "Bring us in," he said, slowly. "Let's see the door." There was a door. It was not obvious until they were close enough that the ring's lines filled the view, and then the door was the only thing he could see. It was a long seam with 8 locks. Each lock was a simple shape: circle, square, triangle, spiral. Each glowed with a low, warm light. When the probes touched them, the light brightened and faded like a response. "The lock pattern," Mara whispered, "matches ancient Earth puzzle boxes." "This is playful," she almost smiled, like someone expected a curious set of hands. The Council had treated humanity like a child. Here the door treated them like a friend who would enjoy a good puzzle. Elias felt a strange hope rise in his chest. He nodded once. "Mara, try the sequence." She reached out and tapped the holographic shapes, careful and steady. Circle, triangle, spiral, square. The lights pulsed, then held a soft, steady glow. The seam opened with no sound. A black room yawned beyond. They sent the probes in. The data sharpened. Air, gravity, temperature. A small chamber. No threats, no traps. The probes paused, then moved deeper at Mara's direction. They found a long hall. They found walls etched with fine lines. Lines like writing, but also like rivers shifting course. They found a central chamber filled with slow light. The signal came from there. "Suit up," Elias said. They walked into the ring with care. The suits were light, flexible, sealed. The air inside the ring was clean. It smelled like nothing, like a well-kept laboratory. Their boots made soft sounds on the floor. The walls caught their helmet lights and gave them back in pale reflections. At the central chamber, they stopped. The room was round. The ceiling opened to show the stars beyond, but there was a thin sheen like glass that kept the environment stable. At the center stood a column of layered plates. The plates rotated slowly, making soft clicks. The signal pulsed. The plates shifted. The signal changed. The room felt like a heartbeat. Mara approached the column and placed a gloved hand near it, not touching, just close. "It is a recorder," she said. "And a teacher." "Teacher?" Jonah asked. "It listens and copies and returns," Mara said. "It learns a pattern and sends it back so others may hear and learn. It is like a school of echoes." Kumi pointed at a shallow recess near the base. "That slot looks like a drive bay, but the dimensions are wrong for Concord tech." "Wrong for Concord," Mara said, "but not for this." She took a small case from her pack. Inside was a replica, a gold-plated disc from the early Terran Voyager mission. It was symbolic. She had brought it for luck. For a conversation starter, no one would answer. She looked at Elias. He nodded. She slid the replica near the slot. The plate stopped. The slot lit with a soft gold tone that matched the disc. The disc slid in like it belonged. The room changed. The pulse grew smoother. The plates rearranged to a new pattern. A voice spoke in plain, simple English. "Welcome," it said. The word did not come from speakers. It came from the air. It sounded like no person Elias knew, but it sounded like home. We waited. Jonah's mouth opened. Kumi took a step back. Mara did not move at all. Elias cleared his throat. "Who are you?" he asked. "We are the archive," the voice said. We keep memory safe when the sky turns. We teach when the children forget. Yours, the archive said. And those you seated. The ones who grew tall. The 4 humans stood very still. The ring hummed around them, steady and patient, as if none of this was urgent. Elias spoke the thought he knew would come anyway. Are you saying humans are older? That we were here before the conquered species? Before all of this?